volunteers who asked who weren't able to be on. I'm really excited that, really our heart with this training was that we really want to be continuing to explore with humility how we can really be serving well all of the different families who approach Safe Families for support, and recognizing that Charlotte is a very diverse community and we're frequently serving families in the Latino community and the African American community. That's been primarily also multiracial families. And so we've really been saying that we want to be better equipped and be better equipping our volunteers to be able to just feel prepared to engage and ask questions and know how to serve families well. And so this was kind of a first step around figuring out how we can better serve, particularly when we are hosting children who are Black or multiracial, because I know it's been a challenge for some of our host families, especially around hair care. And we are super excited to have Nisha Thomas joining us. I'm going to try to see if I can, when she's sharing, pin her video, if I can figure out how to do that to make her a little bigger. But Nisha is really a powerhouse woman who balances, pouring out love and devotion on her own family and her career, as well as being the founder of a 501c3 nonprofit that's called PrettyPonytails, that really has a mission to empower at-risk and underserved girls, ages, is it 1 to 18? Probably 1 to 18. 1 to 18 years old, who really, Nisha has a desire for them to feel empowered and to be having a boost to their self-esteem and their self-confidence, which starts with feeling confident about their appearance as well. And so Nisha's been engaging in underserved communities in different ways. One way that Nisha's been serving is through hair care kits and hair styling and beautification services for girls who are in the foster care system, whether in group homes or directly with the foster family. And I was really excited when Nisha reached out to us, I think maybe 2 months ago now, to share about Pretty Ponytails with us. And so Nisha has partnered with Safe Families Charlotte to provide, which is an enormous blessing, and she'll be talking about some more, but she's providing hair care kits for us. This is one of her bags, a hair care kit that we'll be able to provide to all of our host families when they're hosting a child and need the tools to know how to care for ethnic hair well. And so Nisha's provided hair care kits for us like that. And then she's also available for this is an incredibly generous offer, because I know the time and the expense that goes into hairstyling. But Nisha is also offering that host families, she's willing to come do hair styling services in the host home for $15 when they're hosting children. And so that's something that we're really hoping that our churches and circles of support or our resource friends can tap into and support host families when they're hosting by kind of sponsoring the hair care or hair styling costs. So we're that's the one side. I'm really excited to have Nisha share her expertise on the hair care side of things. And then this was just an incredible double blessing for us, because, like most people I know who really have a passion and a heart for others, Nisha's family has their own story and valleys and hills, like we all do, that they've walked through, including experiencing homelessness at one time. And I'm just so grateful to have her willing to share her own testimony and her experience to help give us perspective on how to walk alongside families who are experiencing homelessness, and just how to serve out of, a place of humility and understanding. So that's my little introduction here. And I just wanted to first give Nisha an opportunity to, introduce and share about herself. And maybe Nisha, just take the next 10 minutes or so and tell us a little bit about your family's story and what brought you to found Ponytails today.
Okay. Thank you so much, Emily, for the introduction. I am so honored and privileged to be here. It is so nice to see all of your lovely faces. I am grateful for this opportunity and privilege. I do not take it lightly. This is such a blessing to be here to just share my story, as well as just to talk about blessing and the business that God has given me. So like Emily said, I am a mom. I'm a wife as well. I've been married for 15 years now. And I have 3 beautiful children, almost 14-year-old daughter. I have a 9-year-old son, and I have a 3-year-old daughter. So my plate's pretty busy with that, you know. And so we are originally from California, and we relocated to Charlotte almost 3 years ago. We were just seeking change, and we knew that it was time for us to just kind of, you know, find something different for our family. We wanted more, and we were just looking, and we found that Charlotte would be a good fit for us. You know, it's very family oriented, and we were just looking for change, you know. So to my story, like Emily said, we relocated here almost 3 years ago. Found an apartment and everything. My husband had a, you know, pretty good, decent job. It was, you know, paying pretty good. Um, and things were just going good, but then, you know, things started to down spiral. He wasn't really too happy at his job. Things wasn't just working out really well. So long story short with that, he ended up losing his job, unfortunately. What put us in a bad place. And I don't know if you guys ever experienced that, of just a loss of a job. So he lost his job, and that, like I said, it put us in a bad place financially. And at that time, we were still new to Charlotte. So I had my daughter, my youngest daughter, she was a baby at that time. So I was pretty much at home because I was still trying to get established. You know, I didn't know really daycares here. And so I was still at home at that time because the job that he had was, you know, was pretty sufficient enough to support us. But once he lost his job, that was our income, right? So when he lost his job, it was very devastating, even though we were kind of happy because his job was really stressful. But at the same token, it was like, okay, now what, God? You know, so from there, we end up, you know, we reached out to organizations in the community to try to help us so we wouldn't lose our place. You know, we had 3 children, but we were able to come up with a portion of the money, but however, we didn't come up with the whole amount. So long story short, we ended up getting evicted from our apartment. We left the apartment, packed up all of our stuff, put it in storage. And from there, I remember looking at my husband, and we're looking like, now what are we going to do? You know, we have these 3 children to take care of, and we didn't know where we were going to go. We stayed in a hotel for 2 days. This was around Thanksgiving weekend, about 2 years ago. Around Thanksgiving weekend, we stayed in a hotel. We had a little money saved up for that, and so we stayed in a hotel. And from there, we began our hotel journey. And so this is what I call my story. I call it homeless to homeownership. That is my story. And so we started our hotel journey. We told our kids our story that was, we're going to be moving from our house, and from our house, we're going to just be going on these, you know, adventures of staying in the hotels and visiting family until our house is done. So that was our story, because we didn't really want to tell our kids, you know, how do you tell your kids we're homeless? You're homeless. Like, you know, I just didn't want to tell my kids that. So our story was, we're on this hotel journey until our house get finished. And so that's what we told them. So from there, I reached out to a childhood friend that I grew up with back in California, where I was from. She was living in Virginia. And so that was like the closest family I had, because we don't have any family here in Charlotte. And so that was like the closest family or person I knew. So I reached out to her, kind of shared my story. I had to be vulnerable. Sometimes in life, we have to be vulnerable and to get the help we need, and, you know, put our pride aside. I didn't want to share my business, but it's like at that point, I was desperate for something, you know, because I didn't know what else to do. So I reached out to her and told our story, and she was, you know, she's like, whatever you can do, you guys can come out here and stay however long you need until you guys can get on your feet. So I was like, thank you so much. So we drove 5 hours to Virginia. Oh my gosh, that was like the longest drive ever. But we drove all the way to Virginia. We got there, stayed there for about a week, and then we ended up coming back to Charlotte. And then from there, honestly, I don't really know how many. I'm gonna have to get back to Emily, because I would really like to know if we can trace that. But we went on so many hotels. We went from Airbnb to hotels, Airbnb for about a year. So we were homeless for about a year. We did that back and forth, back and forth. And the reason why we moved a lot from hotel to Airbnb is because prices changed. And so we had to go where it was cheaper. So we did that Airbnb, and we stayed at some nice hotels, and some hotels that wasn't so nice. But it was what we can afford at the time. I mean, we were sometimes crammed up in one little room. We had to share space with, I don't know if you guys ever been to an Airbnb, but we have one Airbnb I remember. It was so tough because we actually had to share a house with some person that we didn't even know, that we were all crammed in this bedroom because that's all that we could afford at the time. And so we kept doing that. That was back and forth, you know, hotels and Airbnb, like I said, forever and ever. And then one day we was going into a hotel, and well, okay, I'll back up. So usually my husband works for the church. He's a musician at the church, and so he gets compensated for his, you know, playing and stuff like that. So they usually give him a check every Sunday. So the money that we would get every Sunday will cover the cost to cover for the next hotel where we're going to stay. So we picked up our check one day, and we went to try to deposit it into the bank account, what we always do. And usually it'll give us a portion back so we can cover overhead of finding wherever we're going to stay next. That one Sunday, for whatever reason, the bank wanted to be mean to us, right? So we didn't get our check that day. So we were with zero money. I mean, zero money, and we didn't have nothing to our name. So we didn't know where we were going to go. We didn't know what we were going to do. We went and, from that day, we were just looking at our kids like, what are we going to do? We went to the mall. I remember to this day, we went to North Lake Mall, walked around the mall for about into the mall closed, because we were trying to think about what we were going to do, what we were going to do. So we finally reached out to our pastor and first lady, which have been a great, tremendous support throughout our transition. We reached out to them and we told them what was going on, and they were generous enough to help us out to, you know, get us a place to stay. And so that was actually Marriott Fairfield Inn off of W.T. Harris. And so we stayed there, and we actually stayed there. That was the longest stay. And from there, my husband actually ended up getting a job at Marriott. You know, sometimes God works in mysterious ways. And so he ended up getting the job. He got hired there, and he's now actually the assistant general manager there. So it's crazy, but, you know, we never understand, you know, different things we go through, but God turned around for our favor. That's pretty much it. I mean, we pretty much also, like, even going to church, I mean, we continue to stay faithful to God. My husband's, like I say, he's a musician. We continue to went to church every single day, and people didn't know we were homeless. Our car was packed up each day. Sundays we have to check out of the hotel. And there has been a lot of Sundays when we left, we didn't even know where we were going to go. But I mean, through it all, God always provided for us, and he always came through for us. And then so our last place, which was at Fairfield, that was the last place that we stayed for the longest. And I remember just being in there. It was hard to be in there with 5 people in one room, having your stuff everywhere. And I would constantly look for places to stay. But, you know, when you have an eviction, you're kind of like a criminal in the rental world. No one wants to rent to you. We got a lot of no's. We got a lot of doors slammed on our face. And I was like, I would just cry out to God. I'm like, God, we just need a second chance, God. We just need someone to just give us a second chance. And I was looking on Indeed one day, and I came across this home. And I was like, man, this is a beautiful home. I love this home, great neighborhood and everything. I was like, this is probably out of our price range. I don't think we can afford this, you know? And I was like, well, what do we have to lose? And so we went and looked at the house, and we fell in love with it. And the lady is a private owner, and she's like, I'm willing to give you guys a second chance. So, and so she allowed us to move in. And I mean, it's been a blessing. And that's the house that we live in now. It's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath. It's a beautiful home. And we are now actually in the process of actually purchasing a home, which would be amazing. So, so that's what I said. That's pretty much our story. It was stressful. It was hard to get through that. Just to see our kids to go through that. And just to back up, because I did share this with men a little bit, but just to back up, in the middle part, there was one part that we received that was really hard. When we were looking for houses, while we were staying in a hotel, I came across this house before the one we live in now. I came across this house that I thought was the actual house, right? Sometimes we miss those red flags. I found it on Craigslist. Anyways, so we found this house, right? So we go, I'm kind of backtracking, I'm sorry. We go and take all of our stuff out of our storage, right? This is before we found our house that we're in now. We go to take all of our stuff out. We thought this was a house. Everything was moving fast. We got the keys to the house. We move in. And so we move all of our stuff in. We pay for movers and everything, right? We move in. The house had like a little lockbox on it. It was like in a Highland Creek area. the house had like a little lockbox on it. And so we was waiting for everyone to come to finalize, sign, so we can sign all the papers and all that, right? Hours go by. I was like, babe, where's the people? I thought they were supposed to come so we can sign the papers. He's like, I don't know. And so we just like, okay, whatever. We're just excited. I'm calling my mom and I'm like, yay, this struggle is over, right? I'm calling my mom. I'm taking pictures of the house. I was just excited. She's showing all the pictures to the family members and everything. And so from there, so the people never showed up. And so I'm like, okay, something's not right. This is not right, right? Something is going on. And so we were starting to get weird feelings, like, I don't know, why are these people, so they never showed up. So we looked into, I started feeling a little weird. So I called about the house. Long story short, the house wasn't, whoever the owner guy wasn't the right person. He didn't even exist. I didn't exist. Basically, we got scammed. Just say that, okay? We got scammed out of a lot of money. That was the most hardest decision ever. It was devastating, right? My daughter, she claimed her room, she unpacked her room, she decorated her room, made it all beautiful. And so for that weekend, that was Easter weekend, we had to pretend like this house was ours, but it really wasn't ours. I can say I felt like I wanted to give up, because that was one of the hardest decisions, to see that for your kids, I get a little emotional, sorry. That was rough, after going through all that, and you thought that this was the right house, or you thought you were doing the right thing, but because we were so vulnerable, we were just ready to get out of our situation, we felt to miss the red signs, so anyways, the people that own the house, the actual property management, said that they'll give us through the weekend to stay there, but if we're not out by Sunday, then they're going to have to force us out. So we literally had to move all of our stuff back out, put it back in the storage, everything else, and all that. We had to go through all that, and we went back to the hotel. And that's the hotel that we stayed at before we moved into our house now. But after that made me like, when we moved into this house, I investigated that lady's to the T. I got the deed of the house. I looked her up on Facebook, Instagram. I mean, I went all out, because I was just like, no, I'm not doing this to my family again. That was to be scammed. You do never want to be scammed. It's horrible. But yeah, so that's pretty much our story. But I mean, I'm super grateful, and Pretty Ponytails pretty much was birthed out of my struggle when we were going through that struggle of just being homeless. I was driving home one day, taking my daughter to one of her friend's house, and that's, the Lord spoke to me about this business, and I was like, Pretty Ponytails. I'm like, I mean, I know I can do hair, but I'm never really was a big hair type of person. But the Lord birthed that business out through my struggle. And so that's pretty much how Pretty Ponytails came about. And yeah, so.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Nisha. I think when I heard Nisha's story, a couple things that really struck with me is how, I guess, just how relevant it can sound to any of us, you can see how, okay, wow, that really could happen to anybody. It was, we lost a job, that you no longer have housing. And I guess one question I had, Nisha, is when your family was going through that time, what was helpful or what wasn't helpful in how people interacted with you? What did you need from others during that time?
More of just support, because a lot of the times, well, to believe it or not, a lot of people didn't know. And the reason why a lot of people didn't know, because we didn't want no one to know, because we were actually ashamed of our situation. We were embarrassed of our situation. So we kind of kept it in the closet, if you will. There was a very few people that actually knew what we were going through, and we kind of kept it like that. It's like the church, our church that we serve at now, they didn't know until we publicly told our testimony. This is probably like my second time. I mean, I shared it with you guys, but this is my second time actually sharing it open like this. So we kind of kept it shielded, like no one knew. We kept coming to church every Sunday, Bible study and stuff like that, but no one knew what we were going or what we were facing outside of the church. So we kind of just kept it to ourselves. Some couple of our family members knew, but they didn't know all details. But I mean, I would say a lot of it was just, you know, we had a couple of family members that would reach out and say, hey, we're praying for you. You know, we're here for you. And then there was some family members that wasn't supportive at all, but you know, we just dealt with it, you know, so.
Yeah. And what about, I'm wondering if you can share with us just briefly, what were some of the biggest barriers? I know you said, you know, that you would get the check each week and be able to pay for the hotel. So like, what were some of the biggest things that made it hard to get out of homelessness?
I would say one of the biggest barriers was not having enough money saved up, because the money that we would get would actually needs to take care of to keep a roof over our head. So we wouldn't necessarily have to be in a shelter or be separated from our family. So everything that we get had to go to a hotel, which was not cheap, you know. Even if you go to like the lower end hotels, it still starts to add up. So that made it really challenging to just get ahead, because it's like everything we had coming in was so much harder to go out, you know. But thank God, with the hotel that we was staying at for the longest, where my husband worked, he had a good relationship with his supervisor that allowed us to make payments and was lenient about the payments. So that really helped us get to the next level. Just finding that right, I think just finding that right person that would just help you along the way helps you get to where you need to. Because if she wasn't there, or God used her to intervene to help us, I don't even know, we might even still been in that situation. But because she was understanding of our situation and even allowed us to stay there for that time, I mean, we were there for about 6 or 8 months at that same hotel. She allowed us to stay there for that long, but allowed us to make the payments that we necessarily needed, and so we could actually have enough for the down payment. Because it's like, when you move, you almost need a loan to move. I mean, it's expensive. I mean, they're on person month, or this first, second, third, and I'm like, you already know people try to move. Like, come on now. They be ridiculous when people trying to move. Like, it requires so much. But you know, God, you know, blessed us financially so we could move. But I would say those were some of the barriers. So.
Anybody just kind of on this section, did anybody have any questions or comments about what Nisha said, just about her family's experience? And if not, that's okay. But I think what is so interesting to me, I think when there's so many families in Charlotte that are experiencing or have experienced homelessness. And it's been interesting to me how often I hear that what is the boost out is, like you said, Nisha, somebody who's just willing to kind of be a connection or be a second chance or support in the way needed. It really comes down to, I think, a lot of what we talk about so often through Safe Families, of the importance of social networks, you know, plugging people into social networks or social capital is what we say, you know, friends or family, just plugging people into social networks of saying, you know, we had a situation with a mom who really needed to get into affordable housing. And it was simply because one of our volunteers called and basically advocated for her with multiple landlords to say, look, we'll vouch for her. Will you give her a chance? One of our host dads, he just spent several days going around with her to different landlords and kind of being the voice for her. So I think a lot of times it is just really about saying, how can we plug people in and be that support system during that time? Because like Nisha said, it's a very difficult cycle to get out of when it's just constantly all the money is going toward the hotel or short-term situation. So thank you, Nisha. I really appreciate your being willing to share that. That's just an encouragement to me to hear how God's worked in your life.
You're welcome.
Emily, I was just going to tell Nisha, thank you so much for being vulnerable. To have to tell that story and the pain behind it. I would show my face, but I need a pretty ponytail right now. I just walked my dog and I'm sweaty and I don't really look that good to be vulnerable for all these people. But I think the one thing I took away from your story as a church member, not to be aware that someone's in that much pain. I mean, that hurts my heart. It's like, am I just going in and going, hey, how you doing? And just waiting for that response of, oh, I'm good. And not really asking a better question. So thanks for like making that realization, a little bit more aware for me. Thank you.
Problem. I can say it definitely has. It has made me stronger as an individual going through that. It wasn't easy. I mean, I don't wish it upon anybody, but it has definitely made me stronger. It helped me to appreciate life more, and even the smallest thing, like even in the house that we have now, is like even sometimes I wake up and I'm like, wow, is this really my house? Like, you know, I have to, even I constantly thank God, like, thank you, God, that I have a bed to sleep in, like, you know, or thank you, God, that I even have a kitchen to cook in, because oh my gosh, when we moved here, like we was just trying to cook everything. Like we didn't have a stove. Like, you know, we ate out a lot. So that's another cost too. Like you said, that's another cost, paying to eat out a lot. And then that gets old and it's just not healthy. We did a lot of microwave. I have a lot of microwave menus, recipes if y'all need some. We looked a lot of microwave recipes. We had a crock pot. We did microwave, and crock pots was our best friend. So, you know, we have to make it work, because eating out after a while, that just is costly, right? But we learn how to make do with what we have do. And so with that, it really helps you appreciate the small things in life. Sometimes we take it for granted, you know, just like I said, having a kitchen to, you know, to cook in, or having more than one bathroom, because we all shared one bathroom, you know, with 5 people. That's kind of hard, you know? So just, I really learned in that season, just appreciate, and I would never forget where I came from. And I think even my children, I think I hated that my kids had to go through that, but I think it helped them appreciate, you know, just life, that, you know, that they went through that, even though I didn't want them to go through it, but it just helped them appreciate life more, you know, I think, so.
I just want to say I really admire your just really your attitude in this whole thing. I mean, obviously none of us, and you don't want this for anybody, and don't, you know, would never want to go through this, but just the fact that you continually are giving God the praise for it, and just that he brought you through that, and he you know, gave you a business from it, and just the things that you are allowing him to teach you through it, even though it was the hardest thing you've ever done, most likely. So I just want to commend you and just say, you know, thank you for your just sticking it out, not giving up, and just really recognizing just the gifts that God is giving you through all of the hardships that you went through. So
Thank you.
All right, well, we are switching course a little bit here, but I wanted you to just hear where Nisha's come from, because I think it really does speak into just what a heart and passion she has for girls who are experiencing tough times. And so as we're switching course here, I wanted to ask Nisha to share, before she gets into the actual how-to of the hair care basics, and I think we're all like a very 101 level. None of us know anything about ethnic hair care that I know of. So, but I wanted her to share a little bit about why this is so important, that we just approach how we are caring for the hair of Black children or multiracial children in our home, and why is it so important and meaningful that we approach that in really a respectful way and how we're engaging. And maybe Nisha, if you could just share with us some of just the importance of hair care within the Black culture, or anything you want to share with us that we should know as we're thinking of engaging well with parents and asking questions about how they'd like us to care for their child, just what you think would be helpful for us to know.
Well, I think some things to be helpful. I mean, being that, you don't have the experience, or you may not, have that hands-on experience. I think just being open-minded and doing whatever you can to just understand the different texture, of hair, and how to care for your hair, and the different things, that the do's and the don'ts, and just I think being more open-minded and being willing to understand how to take care of it, and just have a more open mind and have a teachable spirit to know whatever it takes to maintain healthy hair as it relates to the ethnic hair care. Just being more open-minded, I think.
And I think, too, I think all the volunteers we have on the call, and the majority of our volunteers right now are Caucasian, are white. And so I think it's something that we've really are seeking to be mindful of saying we really do want to approach this with respect for the parents and for what they're having to tell us about their child. And that we're doing our part to learn what we can. So I appreciate all of you volunteers being on here. So feel free, Nisha, why don't you just dive in and take us kind of from the beginning, whether you want to start off with your hair care kits, or whether you just want to start with like a 101 of walk us through some things that we should know about basic ethnic hair care.
Okay. And so before I start, so I wanted to kind of, what Emily said about the hairstyling. So I know sometimes you might have some young girls that may be in your family, as a host family. So the $15 actually goes back into, it doesn't go to me. It actually goes back into, so I can continue to make more hair care kits. So all the funds I get from, as it relates to like, you know, $15 or whatever, everything goes back into the hair kit. So nothing I have goes to me. I even, like, all the donations I get, sometimes my daughter try to use, I'm like, no, that's for my business. So I'm really strict about that. I don't even use none of the hair care products I get from donations on my hair. I have my own separate stuff. So again, I just want to let you guys know that the money that I get from doing hair goes straight back into the business, so I can continue to make hair care kits. Okay, so like she said, you want me to just kind of just dive into what's in the hair care kit and how we talk about the product manual and how to use it and things of that nature?
Yeah. What
okay.
the do's and don'ts, the red flags to steer clear of.
Okay. So like she said, I brought a sample hair care kit that I already kind of created, and so it kind of comes in this bag, and so I'll kind of pick it apart so you can understand it. So in a hair care kit, just so you know, that in a hair care kit it comes shampoos, conditioner, oil, a moisturizer, comb, brush, a satin scarf, hair ties, headbands, bobby pins, and then I have like a motivational magazine. I'll talk about that after. Okay, so first, I created a product manual, instructional manual, so that when you get the hair care kits, you won't just get this kit and be like, how do I use this product, right? So I created a manual, and so from all the way down from the shampoos and how do you use it. So usually, okay, so for shampoos, for example, for an ethnic hair care, we don't need to wash our hair like every day or even every other day. It's just not necessary. Our hair needs oils in our hair versus, you know, maybe like in the Caucasian family or maybe Asian, or no, those are not like African American. You guys don't like the greasiness in your hair. You try to wash it off, right? With us, our hair thrives with oils and like creams and stuff, because without it, it dries out, it gets brittle, it breaks, it just doesn't function well, and then it can eventually break off and it won't grow properly and it won't be healthy, right? So that's what I'll say. So with the shampoo, I would say shampoo, you wash your hair, and I have one of these. I think I sent it to Emily's, but that will be inside of the kit as well. Shampoo, you wash your hair. For me, I would say it depends on your hair, because even though all African American hair is not all the same, okay? There's different grades of hair. Like I have two daughters, so between my two daughters, their hair is totally different. My youngest daughter, her hair curl pattern is more fine. She has more curlier hair. My oldest daughter, her hair is more thick and coarse. So I have to treat their hair differently. And some products that I use on my daughter hair, I won't use on my oldest daughter hair. And it's weird like that. All our hair textures are different. And my hair texture is different than theirs as well. But just want to let you know that all African American hair types are all different. They're not all the same. And so what product might work for one African American young girl, it might not work for another one. So you just have to kind of just play with it. I use one thing, I'll get back to the shampoo, but one thing a good best friend to just remember is Sally's is a really good thing to keep in mind, that if you try a product, you do not like it, you can always take it back. And I always use that.
You mean Sally's Hair Care? Is that what it's called? Like
yes, yeah. Sally's Beauty Supply. Yeah, Sally's Beauty
Supply. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you purchase a product and you try it on their hair, or even if you want to try it personally, you try it on your hair and you feel like, oh, this does not work. As long as you keep your receipt and you don't use the entire product, you can take it back. So I use Sally a lot, because sometimes your hair textures change. You don't know, what to use. So Sally's, I would say you always keep Sally in mind. Is great for when you're trying to figure out what products works. So like I said, shampoo your hair for African American hair, I would say usually once to twice a week. Every once to twice a week is great. and sometimes even 3 every 3 weeks too. I know that you're probably like, oh, that's gross. But but we don't really need to wash our hair all the time. It's just, I don't know. That's just the way God made our hair. I can't explain that. Okay? Talk to God about that. But that's just how every once to twice a week. And sometimes I do my daughter, my youngest one, every 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks. It just depends on the style. I will wash her hair and I put it into like a protective style. And a protective style is a style that is basically to say it protects your hair so you don't have to mess with your hair a lot. Low manipulation is the key. You don't want to comb your hair, combing it a lot. It does not help your hair grow a lot. So I would say that. So every once or twice a week for washing hair, okay? And like I said, you do not need to wash your hair all because it helps, your hair dries out. It needs a lot of moisture. Moisture is the key for growth. And so also if you get stuck, the directions are always on the back of, I just kind of brought shampoo and conditioner just so you guys can just visual to see what's in there. But on the back of these are products that actually was donated to me for my hair care kits. But on the back of every products or shampoos, there's always directions. And most time on these ethnic products, it will say, either it'll give you instructions how to do it for whatever reason if you feel like you're lost. But you can always, if you're in doubt, always just check the back of the products, okay? And the conditioner, conditioner is pretty much just how you apply conditioner to your hair. You just put it on there. Usually I like to let it sit for a little bit so it can deep condition, let it sit there for a little bit. And then I will always wash my conditioner out with cold water. And not freezing cold, but more like a lukewarm because that helps lock in the moisture in the cuticles versus using warm water. I always use like a lukewarm water to kind of wash the conditioner out. That's something to say, Emily?
Oh no, I was just going to say off of your, saying once or twice a week or once every 2 weeks, that's probably a good thing to keep in mind then as a host family to ask the parent of saying, how often do you wash your child's hair? And so that, because they know the, the texture and how coarse or fine it is. So that's a good point, Nisha, to keep in mind to ask. Yeah, go ahead, Kelly.
Sorry, we have a question. If you do that, if it's like once a week, when you're doing bath time or whatever, can you rinse it with water while you're washing the body, or do you not put any water on the hair? Only once a week?
I don't think it's necessary to use water if you're in the shower, if you're taking a bath. Only you can just wait till wash days.
Just wait till, okay. So just try to keep the hair out of the water then on a normal bath or something.
I mean, okay, so when I wash my hair, I usually wash my hair in the shower. When it's time to fully wash my, it's at 2 weeks or 3 week mark for me to wash my hair. I usually wash my hair in the shower. My daughter's hair, I don't never wash their hair when my youngest daughter, my oldest daughter, she do her own thing.
Yeah.
But my youngest daughter, I don't wash her. I have never washed her hair in the bathtub. I don't know. I just feel like I don't want the shampoo to get on her skin. I don't know if it might irritate it or I don't know. That's just me. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. But when it's wash days, I usually wash her hair. I lay her like her back over the sink. So her head is, so we're like laying back like this over the sink. And I wash her hair in a kitchen. Okay. So I just clear out the area and then I just lay her back and I just, maybe put a little towel right there so it doesn't, hurt her neck. I just kind of support her neck with my hand. But I've never washed her hair in the bathtub. I always just do it in the sink because I don't know. That's just me personally. I don't think it's a bad thing, but I just prefer to do it in the sink. So.
Are you wondering, Kelly, like, I was curious if you're wondering, like, if it's a little kid and they get food in their hair or something, is that what you're wondering about?
Well, is it detrimental to rinse it out?
Gotcha.
Or just not?
Yeah, like if you're in the bath, is it okay if it gets wet, or do you want to keep it dry when you're not doing the?
No, I think it's fine. You can get it wet. You don't have to go through the whole process of the like shampoo, conditioner, and
just not the soaps. Okay.
Yeah. It's okay to get it wet because I purposely I'll get into that more, but I purposely I wet my hair when I go to moisturize it because it just helps it better. But I don't do the whole process of washing and conditioning. So that's that. And so for the conditioner, again, it's pretty much how you apply your own conditioner. You apply the conditioner after you do your shampoo. I usually like try to let it sit there for a little bit, kind of massage it in the hair. And then there's all different, because I have deep conditioners as well, where you can kind of let it sit there, kind of just, so it can kind of just penetrate better. And then when you're doing it, I will always apply it from root to end. I don't know if that's how you guys do your conditioner, but I apply it from root to end, so your whole hair is just saturated in the conditioner. And then when you're detangling it, you want to use like a wide tooth comb. So like a wide tooth comb, like something like this will be inside of the hair care kits, which is great for detangling, or like a something like a brush like this is great for detangling. And these are things that will be in a hair care kit, so you wouldn't have to worry about purchasing them. But again, this is a great for detangling. But when you detangle hair, it's always good to you hold the hair and go like this. You don't want to just go like that. You want to start you always start from the bottom, work your way up, and it just makes it that easier. And it's better to comb the hair out when it's wet versus dry, because you limit the amount of breakage and damage of your hair. So it's better to always comb your hair out when it's wet. So when you have the conditioner on, when you put the conditioner on the child's hair, you want to go ahead and start detangling it then. And then you rinse the conditioner out, so that way it's already detangled. So it just makes it styling much more easier and much easier on the child, so you don't have to hear the crying and all that, But so yeah, wide tooth comb, and then have a little brush to detangle it. It's always essential. I said rinse out with cold water, lock some moisture. Okay, so oils are your best friend. You need oils. So I did bring a little oil. Again, this is another donation. It's Jamaican black castor oil. There are so many different oils out there that are awesome for hair, but Jamaican black castor oil is great for hair, and it's great for skin, and it's great for a lot of stuff. But with oils, you can apply it on right after you style the child's hair, or immediately after you wash the hair. I usually do for my daughter. After I wash my daughter's hair, I put oils on the scalp. So you would just kind of take a comb and kind of just section out the hair, make sure you get inside of all your child's hair. You would place the oil inside of the scalp. You can put it on the scalp as well as the hair. I like to focus more on the scalp than the hair, because eventually if it's on the scalp, it'll run to the hair too. But I focus more on the scalp than the actual hair, because that's where the hair grows from the scalp. So yeah, you will do that immediately after you wash the child's hair, as well as you apply the oil, at least, it depends on the style, but I would say at least about maybe twice a week. You want to make sure the hair is oiled. So the same way, depending on the style, say if the child, I maybe did the hair in some cute little cornrow styles, in between the braids, you want to just go ahead and put the oil in between the braids. Or if they have cute little ponytails, wherever you see the parts, that's where you apply the oil. And then you can put a little bit on your hand and kind of put it on their hair or whatever.
So how much are you talking about, for the scalp? Is it a little bit in your palm, or some drops, or?
Yeah, there is a little, I didn't bring it in here. I have one in my, okay. Can I pause real quick? Let me go. Hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, y'all, hold on.
This is when you put elevator music on, Emily.
Right?
They were humming Jeopardy.
Okay. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. I should have had that in here, but I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm going to look into probably getting some of these and maybe putting these in the hair care kits, because I think these will be much easier. This is my personal oil, and I kind of created my own oil with just different oils that I know is good for hair. And so this little, as you can see, can you see the spout? So this spout is great for, you don't have to worry about how much, because with this is kind of a little harder, because it's just, as you can see, it's a big opening right there, and it just come out too much. But it's kind of like a little safety thing. So when you just pouring it, you can just pour it like this, inside the scalp. And because it doesn't, as you can see, it doesn't, you see it doesn't come out. It just comes out and drops. It's not as much versus that. So I think I'm gonna, I think I can probably get these little, I've seen these little bottles somewhere at the beauty supply where I can just kind of put the oil in there, which it makes it a lot easier. So you don't know how, you know, like Emily said, you don't know how much to put in there. I don't think there's really, you can't put too much oil. It won't affect, it won't, I mean, you might just have super greasy hair, but over oiling your hair, it won't, you don't have to never worry about that. So, so yeah, so that's to your question. So that's oil. And okay, so the next thing is moisturizer. So you need oil, and from oil, you do moisturizer. And moisturizer, these are some little samples that I just put into my kit. And so there's different kind of moisturizer out there in the market, but I will, again, these will also be in your hair care kits, and when needed, you can always get more as they come in, you know, for me. But there's like a daily styling moisturizer, and then there's like a hair butter. So there's all different kinds. There's so many, there's so much products out there. There's so many to choose from. But with moisturizer, you want to apply a lot. So hydration, like I said, is the key. You can do moisturizer daily. So for me, I put moisturizer in my hair every single day. I don't know. It just helps your hair looks more better. So I put moisturizer in my hair every single day, and it's like a cream. This is like a cream. It's like a cream consistency. And you can apply as much as less as you want. There's really no rule with the moisturizer, but you do want to have a lot of hydration. Okay. And so before I actually apply the hydration, I usually use a spray bottle. And like that's what she was saying, Kelly, about the water. So I use water on my hair pretty much daily. If my hair is like, now if I wear my hair like blown out straight without just my natural curl pattern, I don't use the water because then it'll bring it back curly, right? But with the water, I would just use like a regular spray bottle you can get anywhere at the dollar store. Dollar store still sells spray bottle. You put water in there. You want to spritz the hair really good, and then apply the like your moisturizer, and it just helps lock in that moisture with the oils, and it just helps the hair more vibrant with the water. So water is key for your hair. So just to your point, Kelly, so water is very key to your hair. You need water. It helps just kind of lock in that moisture.
And Nisha, if the child had their hair in a protective style, so say they have it all in braids, you would still spritz it and put that moisturizer on and work it into braids, or?
Now that's a good point. I'm glad that you brought that. Now, if they have braids, you don't need the water. Now, if they have hair just loose, like how my hair is, you know, then that's when you do the water. But if they have like braids, then the two things you would use if they're in the protective, that's what we call protective style. If they have braids or something like that, you don't need water. I would just say use oils, mainly oils, and then like if they have their hair left out, you can maybe put some like moisturizing cream on it. But mainly, I would say if they have braids, I would say you'll probably just be using oils while they're in that protective style. But like I said, if their hair is just out, you know, just curly or froey or whatever, then you will use like the spray with the moisturizer cream. So, what else? Let's see. Okay, so make sure you apply a lot of moisturizer on there. And then one key is the satin, like bonnets. So for us, when we go to sleep, I don't just go to sleep like this. I will not just go to sleep like this. Before I go to bed, I usually always put a bonnet or a headscarf on my head. So something like this is like a bonnet. I don't know, can you guys see that really good? Okay, so you would just place that over. There's different kinds. So I have this as well as like, it's kind of like a scarf, and it'll just cover my whole entire head. I use scarves mainly if I have like like a style where I'm just trying to slick my hair together. But most cases, a bonnet will probably be just as good. And they make kid bonnets. I haven't had any kid bonnets donated to me yet, but they make cute little kid bonnets, but you don't necessarily need a kid bonnet. They all do the same thing. But yeah, so you put this on your hair every night. Some kids, depending on the kids, sometimes they might take it off, but still keep doing it. My daughter's pretty good with it. I guess I trained her at an early age, so she actually asks, "Mom, I need my headscarf on before she go to sleep." So I usually put it on her every night. But yeah, so these it helps. So what these are, they help protect your hair if you have styles, as well as it eliminates drying and frizzing. You know, from the next day, you don't have to do a lot, you know. So a bonnet is very key nightly before bed.
Can I ask an ignorant question about that? If a host family is hosting a little boy, maybe who has a big afro, are they going to be embarrassed if we want to put a bonnet on them? Would they wear a scarf, or would they not wear anything? Would it be more likely that it's just girls that are doing it?
Boys don't wear bonnets.
That's what I thought. so
it's not ignorant. You didn't know. It's okay. Yeah, boys don't wear bonnets
either. Would it be normal to just leave it, or should they be?
Just leave it. My son, I have a son. He's 9. He just go to bed. I focus on my daughter's hair more so. The boys just like, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What, like talking about boys, do you do any of the oils or the moisturizer with boys?
Yes, that's a good point. So I would say the same product you use on a young girl, you would put on the boys too. Far as all the way down to the shampoos and conditioners, you can do the same thing. I'm more stricter on my girls as it relates to the whole hair care than my son. I might still make sure he washes his hair and things of that nature, but we all use the same products. So the same products that me and my daughter use, even my husband, he used the same products. So we all use the same products. So you don't need separate products for boys or girls or whatever. But yeah, so they can use the same thing. So and it depends on the boy's hair, because I know with my son hair, my husband, he kind of has like a little fro-y at the top where he kind of like keeps it, and he uses like a sponge. I think me and Emily talked about this before. He uses like a little sponge thing where he does like make little coils, so it kind of brings out the natural curls. So it depends on the boy's hair. Like my son hair, we actually cut his hair off because he just wasn't taking care of it. Because he had like a little fro-y thing up here, but now it's like a really short fade. Because it was just easier to manage. So sometimes he brush it, sometimes he don't. I just kind of let him do his thing with his own hair. Yeah. So that's pretty much it as far as hair care. And then I'll kind of just tell you what else will be inside of here. So you have your scrunchies, which is just your regular everyday scrunchies, just for ponytails or whatever. And then I usually include like a headband, and they're different. Most headbands are different. It just depends on whatever's out there in the market. I don't have like a certain headband. This is just a cute little accessory. I just added in there. There's really no instructions to the headband. I mean, you just put it on, whatever. And then of course your bobby pins. Bobby pins are always essential. I always use bobby pins because they always get legs and run away. I don't know why bobby pins. I always lose my bobby pins. I feel like there's like a bobby pin thief out there. Like, where happens to the bobby pins? They just always run away. I don't understand. I always have a shortage of bobby pins. And then of course, I have a partnership it's called Girls Like You. This is amazing magazine. They are partnering with us, and they have donated several of these, and we'll continue to partner with them. And this magazine is pretty much just all about girls, help empower the girls. There's fun little activities in here. They feature like girls that may be entrepreneurs, or girls that may be doing great things in the community. Girls that young girls, when they read this, they can be inspired. This young girl that's on here, I don't know, Abby, what's your daughter? I see her looking. What's her name?
Charlotte.
Oh, Charlotte. Okay, so this will be a great book for her because I know it's probably for the host families, but this is even Jessica, your daughter too. This will be a great book. These books are amazing. I gave some of them to my daughter, but Erin Wright Thompson, this is the little girl in here. She's actually from War Room. I mean, not War Room, but Overcomer, the movie Overcomer. I don't know if you ever seen her, but she's a phenomenal girl. So, but this book, it is great. It's just letting them know that God loves them and that they're God's girls. And it's so much encouraging things in here that they can learn from. And, there's like little jokes and riddles, and it's cool. I love this little book. Anyways, so yeah, so that will be inside of each hair care kit. And that's pretty much it, y'all. Oh, and I always put, you know, a little lip balm. I have a whole bunch of little lip balms that was donated from Mixed Chicks, you know, a little lip balm for the kids. And that's pretty much it. We provide, like I said, deep conditioning, like I told you guys, and the instructions on here. These are deep conditioners, just to help condition their hair as well. Deep conditioning, again, I didn't put that in my notes, but deep conditioning is not something you will need to do every time you wash the child's hair. You could probably do these maybe like once a month or so. And again, they have all the instructions are on here, or if you have questions, I can definitely help you out with that. Yeah, so that's pretty much it what's in the kit. If you guys have any questions, I'm open to any questions, any comments, thoughts, or anything that wasn't clear.
I have two questions. One for clarification. So with boys' hair, you mentioned you do the shampoo and conditioner. So, but do you still do the oils and the cream, moisturizing cream, or no?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't really focus so much. You can still put it on their scalp, definitely, because I know my son's scalp. He has really dry scalp, and I think it might be because he might have he had like a form of eczema at one point. So his scalp really gets really like that flaky stuff. So I would say yes, and I think it depends on the child's scalp. But you can definitely do the same regimen that you would do for a young girl as well. So
okay. And then the other question was, if the child swims, like in a swimming pool, do you necessarily wash their hair, or because that can be very drying? So then would you do oil?
Yeah, so for swimming, you would immediately want to wash the child's hair because obviously chlorine damages your hair. And that's another thing. That's why I don't really go swimming, because it's like I have to deal with my hair. It's a lot to wash your hair, and it's like when you go swimming, I mean, because chlorine really damages your hair if you do it a lot. You know, I'm not saying kids want to be kids. You know, you want them to swim and have fun, but you can even buy swim caps now. I don't know. I've tried one before, but you can probably look around maybe at sporting stores. If you want to protect their hair, you can get like swim caps to put on their hair, so you don't have to worry about it getting wet or have to go through the whole process of washing it and all that. But I would say definitely if they go swimming, go ahead and wash it and go through as if it's a whole wash day or whatever. But you don't do the whole swimming a lot, because again, that's a lot of drying on their hair. So just kind of be mindful of that. And if you do want to swim a lot, maybe look into getting a good quality swim cap.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
I had a question. I think you maybe had mentioned at one point, but I think I missed it. If a child does have a protective style in, how long does that last for? Or do you leave that in before you need to have it done again?
So that always varies on the style, how big or how small. Like if you have a kid, say they have like some cornrows in their hair or whatever, it depends on the style. Like obviously if the cornrows are smaller, they will probably last longer versus if they were bigger. So it depends on the size, the style, and if they tie their hair up. So tying their hair up with a bonnet or a scarf will preserve your style for longer versus if you don't tie it up. If you don't tie it up, you're not going to get as long with the style as with it. So it just depends. And I guess you would just kind of gauge it. Usually when I do my daughter's protective styles, like for example, she has a style like right now I need to probably do her hair. It's looking bad. It's really frizzy because some days she tie it up and some days she don't, or sometimes I'll be honest, sometimes I'm lazy, hey, we're mom. Sometimes I'm like, I'm sleepy, I don't feel like putting your scarf on tonight. I'm just being honest, but so it gets frizzy. So you can kind of gauge it. I think you need a new style. It's starting to get frizzy. I would say probably a good maybe 2 weeks, just depending on the style. Sometimes 3, just depending on how small or big how the style is. So
what about like curling irons or are those avoid things like that, heat or flat irons and curling irons?
I wouldn't really recommend it on little kids' hair. Maybe like special occasions and stuff like that. I don't see anything wrong with it. My 3-year-old, I have never put any heat on her hair. I've never like blow dried it or flat ironed it before ever. I don't know. I just think they're kind of young for that. But I don't think nothing's wrong with it. Like, maybe Easter or picture day or something like that, but not a lot. I wouldn't, maybe just leave it to special occasions because it could damage, you know, the hair, or it could affect their curl pattern if they're constantly putting heat, because they can get heat damage. So you don't want to put a lot of heat on their hair, especially at an early age. Maybe when they get older, like my teenager, you know, of course she's more into having her hair straight and stuff like that. But when they're younger like that, it's not really necessary to straighten it. So
actually, that's a good point with you saying blow dryer. Should the hair just be left to air dry, or you blow dry?
I air dry. Yeah, but for me, I think for ages, like when they're young like that, I never, like I said, I never put a blow dry on my 3-year-old hair. I just think it's not necessary. I just let it air dry. So immediately after I wash her hair, I usually go into the regimen of the oils and the moisturizer, and then I style it however I'm going to style it to keep it up for about a week or two. And
While it's wet, you style it?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So I style it while it's wet.
Nisha, how do we learn how to do protective styles?
So I can show you, or YouTube can be your best friend.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, you can always, honestly, you can Google it, or you can even do a YouTube protective styles. And mostly protective styles are basically the protective styles, like I said, is just low manipulation, where you don't have to comb your hair. And I would say my go-to protective style is really simple, because I'm kind of lazy about combing my hair. Is I do 2 French braids, 2 fat big French braids, and I will wear that for 1 week, take it out, and do it again. And I just tie my hair up, and I don't have to comb my hair for 1 week. So it just depends. Yeah.
I had a question. So we kept little girls, and I don't know if this was the mom's preference or just in general with hair care. She said not to use sulfates in the shampoo.
Yes.
Is that just a mom's preference, or is that something that all Black children need to avoid?
It could be a preference, but so I don't use shampoo with sulfates in it, because sulfates is as a drying agent for your hair. It dries your hair out, and it's like those chemicals. So even when you most of all my shampoos that are in my hair care kits, none of them have sulfate in it. They're all natural. And if you go to like whatever store you shop at, Walmart, Target, or even a beauty supply, they will have it listed on there, free of sulfates and dyes and all that. So you want to stay away from those, because those are harsh for your hair. So yeah. So
Okay. And then also, if they are in a protective, like if they have braids, but you're washing it, you know, once or twice a week, but the braids are in for a few weeks, how do you wash braids with shampoo? I mean, just
well, okay, so that's a kind of a twofold question. So it depends. So like, for example, I don't know if you've ever seen like a Black child with like the extensions. Like they have like the extensions where it's just like loose braids, like individuals all over. I don't know if you guys ever seen that, just like individuals. And you can wash that. It kind of messes up the style, but if you have cornrows, if you keep it up for 2 or 3 weeks, you do not need to touch the hair until you take the braids out. Just leave it, just oil it and tie it up, and then you just leave it like that. But now if they have like the extensions, girls with like extensions, you can wash it. But you just want to kind of be careful, because sometimes it can kind of mess up the style. It won't go as long as it would normally, because the water. I mean, it's perfectly fine the way it is, just as long as you moisturize it. They even make braid spray. So when you have like the extensions in your hair, I'm pretty sure you've seen Black girls, the braids be way down here or whatever. Those are like the extensions. That's not the hair. Not the hair. So you can like get like conditioner, like they make conditioner, they make braid spray. So even when you have like the extensions, you want to keep your scalp moist too, because you don't want your hair to get dry at all. So you can even go to beauty supply store. And again, you can always reach out. I'm always available if you need any guidance for that. Feel free, and I can let you know what are some good things to use for if they come to you with extensions. But if they have French braids or cornrows, you just leave it until you change the style out. Like say if you had a little girl and I did her hair, as long as you keep it tied up, you won't have to wash her hair until the next wash day, which will probably be 2 weeks or whatever. So you don't need to wash it while they're in cornrows. So Good questions, you guys.
Anything else that comes to mind? And for you, Nisha, if a host family was hosting and did want to ask you to come style the child's hair, what would be good for you via like how much notice would you need, or is there days that are better for you that you're available, or?
I'm pretty open. I mean, at least maybe a day or two would be great. I mean, because I have my own kids or whatever, so just that way I can plan accordingly. But I'm pretty flexible, so at least a day I will a day is good, or two, whatever.
So, feel free if you're thinking of other questions, but a lot of what Nisha talked about will be I'm going to email out to everybody who attended the sheet that comes with the hair care kit that kind of talks about the frequency of the oil and the shampoo and conditioner and all, but also like Nisha said, it would be in a hair care kit if you get one. And we're figuring out a process for that. I think, in general, it would probably be either a family coach or a family friend or another volunteer picking up the hair care kit for you if you're going to host and coming to drop it off for you. So I know sometimes we don't have that much notice before we start hosting. So
yeah. And again, if on the product manual that Emily's going to send out, if there's any questions on there that maybe I didn't put on there and I just overlooked it, feel free to say, hey, what about this, Nisha? You didn't put that on there. What do I do? I'm open to that. So just let me know. I'm open to any questions you guys have. So yeah. And again, if you're not really sure about the whole protective style and you prefer maybe me to just kind of do my thing because you maybe just don't want to do that, that's to say, as long I'm open to doing that. And if every 2 weeks you want a hairstyle, we'll do that. You wouldn't even have to worry about the washing unless you want to wash it and I can style it and I can show you, or I can wash it style however you want to do that. So
I just want to
I did have one more question.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
So I'm pretty sensitive to perfumey smells, and we did respite for a kid, and I just could not take whatever the moisturizer was. Are there ones that you know of or that would recommend that don't have strong smells or are a little more toned down? I get my really perfumey type smells,
so you prefer like more of a fruity smell maybe?
Or just like, I don't know, more natural shea butter kind of, I don't know, just.
There is shea butter. Honestly, every product all have fragrance or is gonna smell like something. Unfortunately, even down to the shampoos and conditioner, they all have a fragrance. So I think it's just a matter of what, like for example, like this product right here, it's a rosemary mint, and that's the I guess the scent. It's a rosemary mint. So you have rosemary and mint inside of here. So and this is like a Hawaiian ginger flavor, or not flavor, scent. So all products have scents. It's just like I said, you just gotta depends on what you can tolerate. But there is a shea moisture. There is a like you said, shea butter or whatever. But I have to check that out and see if there is any ones that just kind of more you prefer kind of not no scent. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like I use Cantu because I have curly hair.
Oh,
and Cantu,
okay.
It doesn't have strong smells, but I didn't like. Is that things that I can use on Black children?
Yeah, you can use Cantu. I don't know. That's my first time, not to be like that, but I didn't even know. I'm sorry. I didn't know Caucasian people use Cantu. I'm like, what?
Well, I have a sister who has biracial children.
Okay.
And she decided she was going to stop straightening her hair and wear it more curly for her kids to show them that their curls were beautiful too. And so she started learning how to take care of their hair better as well as hers. So I got a lot of tips from her on how to care for your curls. So she introduced me to Cantu.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, so you could use the products you use on their hair. You can use, I mean, because
Okay.
obviously it was made for African American, people. So our hair. So you can use it on there if that's a product you prefer. Now,
Okay.
again, like I said in the beginning, now because it works good for you, that doesn't mean it might work good for that child. So it's all trial and error. You just have to see what works. A product that we use as a go-to is called As I Am. And again, that's not in the hair care kit, but I haven't received any donations from them. But As I Am is that's what we use. And it's not flowery, it's like a pomegranate smell. And I use that and I love that product. So again, there's products out there that are more subtle than others, and I understand what you mean. So I think it's just a matter of what, finding what your preference is. And again, always remember Sally's, because if you try a product and even if you don't like the fragrance, you can take it back as long as you keep your receipt. As long as it's not completely gone, you can take it back. So I think that's always one thing to remember too. Like try Sally's. You can keep trying stuff, and they don't ask you a question. You just like, oh, I don't like the product. They take it right back.
Yeah, and I think I would share with that, of course, with Safe Families, we always keep in mind that we are co-parenting with the parent. And so that's always, we want it to be part of the conversation when we're, first meeting the host family and the parent, to hear what do you use on your kid's hair or what has worked, because like Misha said, it can be different for everybody. And I will say that, we often have situations where a parent maybe has been in their financial situation where they're experiencing homelessness or are really going through a hard time. So maybe they don't have the products on hand, that they haven't been able to get what they typically would use to care for their child's hair, but we still want to have that conversation of,
right.
What has worked, or is there something we shouldn't be using that, your child has an allergy to, or their scalp gets itchy, or.
Yeah. I think it's like Emily said, it's important because, the parent knows better, and they might have tried different things. So I think it's good to ask the parent, what are some things that they've tried, or what do they prefer to use, and, maybe try to stick to that if possible, Yeah.
I had a quick question. We had some two twins, 3-year-old girls, and I know the whole process was very traumatic for them. And so it took so long, like they had braids, but we tried to take the braids out before the lady came to our house to redo them. And that, even in that process, that takes a while, and they're not always super excited to sit still, or just they know because they've lived it and they know it's going to take a while. So would you, if you were going to come to our house or whatever and take care of like a little girl's braids, would you want us to go ahead and have those taken out?
Now if it's a process, and depending on how big or small the braids are, it can be a long process. But now if you feel like you're not really, equipped to do it, I don't mind helping you. Because you want to make sure you take them out correctly, because you can also damage the hair while taking the extensions out as well. So if you feel like you need help with that, I don't mind helping you. So you can just let me know. But if you feel like you're capable of doing that, then taking them out, and then when I get there, I can style it, or just whatever you feel comfortable with. So.
Actually, that'd be helpful to hear quick, Nisha. I know we're getting close to the end of the time, but so if a child does have really tight little braids, you said take them out correctly, really, really tight little cornrows, what's a good way to take those out?
So if it's extensions versus their real own hair, now with extensions, you want to be careful, because when taking them out, like if they're really like longer, real long, usually what I'll do, I like to cut them so that way you don't have to work your way all the way. You'd be forever trying to take those braids out. But you don't want to cut so much where you cut their real hair, because with extensions, obviously there's fake hair added in. So you want to cut a good amount so it'd be easier to unravel to take them out. So then when you take it out, usually there might be like a little ball right here. You want to make sure you separate the hair so way that it won't be in clumps. It'd be easier to comb out, if that makes sense.
And so what if it's their natural hair, but it's just those really tight little braids?
So if there's their natural hair, you just, proceed as if you had, braids in your own hair, you just unravel them and just pretty much just take them out. And you don't want to comb it out while it's dry. Remember, like we said, we don't want to comb it out while it's dry. You want to make sure it's it's wet, because it's already, you know, it's, you don't want to comb out when it's dry. So you can use your spray bottle at that time to, you know, comb it out. So, or you can just wait till you wash the child's hair when you put the conditioner on, and then detangle it in. But you definitely never want to comb it out while it's dry. So.
And we had a little boy that had that afro hair that kind of, they would have it in braids, but they would have, you know, braids that would stick out and stuff like that. But something I found helpful in taking out those braids was to put a detangler cream. So his mom had recommended one. So we had this detangler cream that you actually put on and almost like make it really, really
soft, like
easy, damp, or, you know, whatever, but also it's not just water. And then you know, just kind of start unraveling it, take a little comb and just kind of pick through it, and like until you can get to a place where you can just almost like reverse braid it to open it.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point that Jessica brought up. Yeah. So even if the braids are really small, it might be kind of hard to do it with your finger. If you have like a small tooth, I don't have one here in the bag, but there's so many different combs. If you have like a small tooth comb, you can just kind of pick the braid until you kind of get up to the top or whatever. So it just makes it easier to take out versus with your fingers. I usually just use my fingers, but when they're small like that, it's easier to use a comb to unravel the braid though.
Well, thank you so much, Nisha. This was really helpful, and I'm sure we'll be calling on you with some questions upcoming, but this was really helpful for us. And we already actually have, I think we have 15 right now, but of these hair care kits from Nisha. So any hosting starting where, you know, it's applicable, where we don't have a little boy with just a shaved head or something, but we'll be passing on the hair care kits to the host families.
Okay. No problem. Thank you guys for having me. It was my pleasure.
Thank
And
you.
again, you know, I'm always available if
you.
you guys have any questions or any resources or anything. I'm always available. I don't mind. So
Thank you, Nisha. I learned so much.
no
Yeah.
problem.
So I'll be sending out an email to you all tomorrow just with Nisha's info about hairstyling, and then also with her kind of product manual. I think, I don't know if you're seeing the chat, Nisha, but several people said thank you. Rika had to sign off, and Amanda said thanks for sharing as well.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, it was so nice to see all of you, and we'll hope to connect again soon. Thanks for joining.
Okay.
Have a
Bye.
good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.